Welcome to the 17th week of this year's In Times Like These recap. Now, let's get into this. Starting with Vivian Jones, who checks in on her nephew Alan in his office. Unaware that Vivian is his aunt, Alan thanks her, but she notices that Alan is in a bad mood. He reveals to Vivian that he planned to take over Theodosius's palace. This causes Vivian to ask Alan why he was after the hotel. Alan is unwilling to reveal to Vivian that he lost half of his inheritance, then expresses how his father Isidore wants him to give up on the plan. Yet Alan decides to disregard his father's orders and attempts to make Pacho seem unfit to run Theodosius's palace. Vanessa Dorval asks her younger brother JJ how he feels about being back at school. JJ tells Vanessa that he's just ready to get through with the day. To the siblings' surprise, Nichelle Torres approaches them, going off on JJ for shooting her father Devante. Vanessa demands that Nichelle back off. Unwilling to step down, Nichelle tells Vanessa that she wishes she told JJ to back off when he shot Devante, unwilling to believe that her father was a danger to the Dorval family. Yulisa approaches the group, telling her older sister that she believes JJ, which upsets Nichelle. Nichelle replies by stating that JJ had no business shooting their father, revealing that Devante decided to press charges. Then Yvette Mitchell arrives. Nichelle tells everyone that she's beginning to feel nauseous at the sight of Yvette, then walks off as Yulisa apologizes and walks after her sister. When Yvette asks JJ how he's doing, JJ asks Vanessa to let him speak with Yvette alone. Yvette states that she understands that JJ was upset with her the last time they spoke. JJ interrupts Yvette, reminding her that he was upset after hearing about how she lied about Max. Even though she doesn't admit to her deception, she explains that when she heard about JJ's breakdown, she never stopped thinking about him. JJ tells Yvette that she never entered his mind. He goes on to state that he'll continue not to think about her, explaining that the last time Yvette entered his mind, he stopped taking his meds, then walks off, upsetting Yvette. Meeting in the Theodosius Palace hallway, Devante Torres asks Adaku Danjuma if she was able to figure out whether Quinlan exposed her. She replies by informing Devante that she asked Quinlan to track down whoever exposed her. Devante tells Adaku that she's only making Quinlan go in circles, certain that she's behind the leak. She goes on to remind Devante that Quinlan is covering his case, suggesting that he might just want Quinlan out of the way. Even though he admits to wanting to get rid of Quinlan, he states that Quinlan is very curious. Adaku reminds Devante that Quinlan is a reporter, but feels like there's no way she could have discovered her identity on her own. This is when Devante suggests that Quinlan might have worked with someone else. When Adaku questions who, Devante reminds her that Zeke is her younger brother, and that she might have found out how he makes money and would want to take down the organization which he supplies product for. Quinlan Franklin arrives at Ben Russo's office, informing him that Adaku is asking her to track down whoever leaked her birth certificate. Ben questions if Quinlan will make him her fall guy. She is adamant that she would never do anything like that, telling Ben how much she still cares about him. He tells her not to say those sort of words, telling her that she can't use her fears to make him feel remorse for her. Quinlan states that she's not looking for remorse, but for a way out, asking Ben if he really feels nothing but hatred towards her. Instead of answering her question, Ben tells Quinlan that if she truly wants a way out, then she should go to Pacho. She informs Ben that she did go to Pacho and with the plan to get Devante to snitch on Adaku and make a deal with the police. This angers Ben, telling Quinlan that Devante shouldn't spend a minimum amount of time in prison for taking Elvira's life just to spare Quinlan's. He goes on to ask Quinlan if Pacho agreed to her request. Quinlan states that Pacho rejected her request, understanding how awful it was, but expresses how desperate she was to stay alive. When she expresses her concern of being unable to outsmart Adaku, Ben reminds Quinlan how resourceful she is, certain that she can find enough evidence to put Adaku away for good, where Adaku won't be a danger to her. She thanks Ben for hearing her out, hoping that she can live another day where she can miss how close they were in the past, JJ and Vanessa arrive back home as Jeremiah and Shelley ask the two how school went. They explain how Nichelle stated that Devante will be pressing charges against JJ. Jeremiah and Shelley admit that it's the case, encouraging their kids to trust that God will get Devante convicted for taking Elvira Russo's life. Most of all, they encourage JJ not to let Devante scare him, assuring JJ that he did nothing wrong. Even though JJ understands that, he admits to his parents that he still has nightmares, making him feel guilty. Jeremiah and Shelley assure his son how that's normal, explaining that shooting anyone is traumatizing, assuring him that he'll get through it, but shouldn't have to be punished for it. Devante notices how upset Nichelle is when she arrives at the penthouse. She tells her father about her frustration with Yulisa taking the Dorval side over him. Devante tells his daughter how it only matters that she knows the truth, explaining how he can't have the family any more divided when the trial arrives. Nichelle apologizes, asking her father how he feels. He tells his daughter that he's ready to get everything done with and get on with his life. Nichelle asks her father if he's sure that he's not worried about the outcome of the trial. Upon hearing the question, Devante reminds Nichelle how he's the parent and she shouldn't have to worry about him. Most of all, he claims to be innocent, then consoles his daughter, assuring Nichelle that he's not going anywhere. Finnegan Burke gets a call from Quinlan Franklin, informing him that Adaku asked her to track down the person who leaked her true identity. As the two converse on the phone, Quinlan suggests that they get Pacho to become an associate of Adaku's in order to take down Adaku's organization. On the street corner, Zeke is caught by surprise when Adaku approaches him, asking him if Quinlan knows about the work he does for her. He lies and claims that Quinlan is oblivious and remained clueless after he was arrested for substance possession at the high school months prior. Adaku goes on to question how he was able to get DA Russo to drop the charges against him. Zeke informs Adaku that Quinlan used to be friends with the DA's son, Ben Russo. When Adaku mentions that she's aware that Ben is a private investigator, Zeke explains that Quinlan and Ben had a falling out after Ben discovered Quinlan had an affair with the DA's husband. He begins asking Adaku why she wants to know all of this. She states that Quinlan is an intelligent woman, asking Zeke to keep Quinlan far away from her business, and she won't have to visit him again. Inside of Heidi's office, Zeke informs her and Finnegan that Adaku approached him. As for Finnegan, he states that it's not as random as she thinks, explaining that Adaku asked Quinlan to track down who leaked her true identity. Just as Zeke tells Finnegan how he needs to make sure that Quinlan doesn't get in harm's way, Heidi tells Zeke that his sister got herself in this mess and can get herself out. Angered, Zeke points out that just because Quinlan slept with Gianni doesn't mean she deserves to have her life taken. Angered, Heidi reminds Zeke that she has every right to drop the deal and throw him straight into prison. Finnegan tells Heidi how that won't be necessary, then informs them how Quinlan has already found a way out of this situation. Vivian arrives at Theodosius's palace to visit Pacho. As he expresses how glad he is to see her, Vivian informs him about Alan's plan to make him seem unfit to run the hotel. Pacho appreciates Vivian for giving him the heads up. Then Vivian asks for his alliance in return. She doesn't reveal that she's Lorenzo Russo's secret, illegitimate daughter, but states that she is going after the Russo's fortune. Pacho agrees to help. Then Vivian walks off after they exchange numbers. Once Vivian is gone, Pacho receives a call from Quinlan, asking him to become an associate of Adaku's. At the Russo estate, Harley scolding him for striking their son and allowing him to go after Theodosius' palace. She goes on to ask if Isabel knows about their initial plan. Isidore warns Harley not to say a single word to Isabel. This causes her to ask Isidore why he's so concerned about Isabel, asking if he still has feelings for the woman she could never amount to. Before Isidore has a chance to respond, Alan enters, asking his mother what she's doing at the estate. Harley tells Alan how they didn't have a chance to speak, asking to speak with him alone. Alan begins to ask his mother why she's so embarrassed to tell his father that she and Finnegan are having an affair. Enraged, Isidore begins to question if Harley has truly lost her mind. Harley tells Isidore how it's none of his business. Then Alan tells Harley that he still doesn't want to hear her explanations. He goes on to tell his mother to prepare for the entire family to be against her as she defends the man who took Elvira's life. Surprising Terry in her office at the hospital, Devante informs her that he'd like her to be a character witness for the upcoming trial. After trying to persuade him that it's not a good idea, Terry reluctantly agrees to his request. Before Devante leaves, he thanks Terry with a kiss. Once he's gone, the kiss leaves Terry troubled. Quinlan is on the phone, convincing Pacho to become an associate of Adaku and that it's the best way to take down Adaku's empire. Reluctantly, Pacho agrees to Quinlan's plan. Owen enters Wanda's office, asking how she's feeling about the upcoming trial. Wanda begins to tell Owen how it won't feel real until she's in the courtroom. He assures Wanda that it's real and that he'll fight Devante with everything he's got. As for Wanda, she fears that her testimony might not be enough. Owen feels like Wanda's testimony is beneficial, reminding her that she's the one who can confirm that Devante left the party at Theodosia's palace the night that he took Elvira's life. Even though she knows that she'll be telling the truth, she fears that Harley will try to paint her as a liar. He tells Wanda that she's one of the most honest people that he knows. Wanda urges him to rethink that, reminding him that she basically protected the man who took her best friend's life for years because she wasn't being honest. Owen assures Wanda that it's never too late to do what's right, and that before she knows it, the 20-year-old nightmare will be over. Wanda disagrees, stating that even if Devante is convicted, the nightmare will never be over since Elvira is never coming back, influencing Owen to hug her. In Harley's room, Finnegan asks his lover if she was able to make amends with Alan. She states that Alan is still angry with her, feeling like he wouldn't be this angry if she wasn't defending Devante. Finnegan asks his lover if she's certain that Devante won't be convicted. Harley begins to ask Finnegan if they could drop the conversation. He tells Harley that if she has any doubts about being able to win the case for Devante, then she can tell him about it. Harley tells Finnegan that it's too risky to doubt her ability to win the case for Devante. Finnegan begins to ask Harley what she means by that. Harley tells Finnegan to forget it. Finnegan decides to leave it alone, but assures her that if Devante is pressuring her about anything, then he promises to take care of her. Ben is caught by surprise when Devante is at his office. When Ben asks Devante what he wants, Devante would like to know if the two of them have an understanding. This causes Ben to ask what sort of understanding he and Devante would have to come up with. Devante states how he hasn't heard of any news of the diary being uncovered. Ben asks Devante if it makes him nervous knowing that he's the only one who knows where the diary is. The answer which Devante gives is that he's not nervous, since he's certain that the diary will never come to light. Ben begins to ask Devante how he's so sure, wondering if he's going to have him eliminated. Scoffing, Devante tells Ben how that would make him look so sketchy, especially with the trial coming soon. Even though Ben points out that Devante would want him out of the way, Devante states that if the diary were to have been uncovered, then the police would have had it by now. When Ben asks Devante what he wants to hear, Devante asks Ben if he'll deal with any surprises during court. The answer which Ben gives is that Devante might just have to wait and see. Devante is certain that he'll see Ben in court, but points out that if he sees Elvira's diary in court, then Ben will lose the only piece of Elvira that he has left. Before Devante leaves, he asks Ben if he could live with himself for letting go of Elvira's diary. Can't get enough of the crazy world of In Times Like These? Then treat yourself to a binge watch of In Times Like These. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. You're not ready for what's to come, but tune in anyway.